Okay, cadets, here we are. Another episode of General Howitzer's Big Monster Briefing Room. I'm General Lemuel T. Howitzer, and with me today is our very special guest, Mr. Julio Morales, who is an expert on zombies and fighting zombies as he lives up north.
Yes.
Have you ever been to Pittsburgh?
There's a lot of them there. Also Detroit due to the tap water.
Well, there you go. So, but nobody wants to go to Detroit.
No.
There we go. Let's just, single out a whole state and piss them off. That's good, Howitzer. Real good. Okay, here we go. Ruby Ray Moore's here. Hello, Ruby Ray Moore. Oh, by the way, let me give you a salute there, Julio. Good to see you. Glad you're back in action. I heard you had a concussion earlier.
I think I still do.
Oh, really?
Well, I guess.
Cover up that concussion. That's an easy way for them to get in there and get those brains.
It's kind of like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. She turned me into a newt. Well, I got better.
She gave me a concussion. But I got better. Go better. Now it's a better concussion.
Oh man, that should have been a topic when you were talking about Night of the Lepus, the killer rabbit.
Oh, we talked about that. That was mentioned, I think, once or twice.
That's right.
So you can't get through a movie about killer bunnies without mentioning, the killer bunny from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There's just no way. You can't do it.
I warned you.
With nasty, big, pointy teeth. But today we're talking about zombies. And in particular, the movie that started the zombie craze where they ate brains. In the original Night of the Living Dead movies, well, in all of the Night of the Living Dead movies, they are cannibals. They eat human flesh. They do not single out brains as their food. But in this particular movie, that's where this got started. And surprisingly, it was written by the man who wrote the script for Alien, with the chest burster and all. And he did it in collaboration, the story in collaboration with John Russo, who helped write, or actually wrote, Night of the Living Dead. So yeah. Russo, Dan O'Bannon is the name of the guy who created this zombie series, and again created the Alien series. So the guy's top notch. He's top shelf. But Russo, surprisingly, is involved in both of these zombie. What do I call it? There's a trilogy for this one. This one has 3 movies, right?
Yeah.
Actually, there might even be more.
I think there's 4. And then when Russo remade Night of the Living Dead, I think it was 1995, I want to say, maybe 95 or 97, he used the continuity from Return of the Living Dead too. So they mention pieces of it, but they also use the original film, so it's kind of weird in that respect.
Okay. Well, again, these franchises, that's the word I was looking for. These 2 franchises, Russo is involved in both of them.
Yep.
So that's pretty amazing. And these are the 2 most famous, probably, franchises for The Walking Dead. As opposed to TV's Walking Dead.
I think the only other franchise that's similar in popularity at all is Lucio Fulci's Zombie series from Italy. But that's several films that have nothing to do with each other. It's not a continuous storyline. So...
Hey, and let's make another zombie movie, huh?
Yeah,
that's a makeup of some people like zombies.
I think Robert Vaughn was a blind guy in one of them. There was birds in one of them, Anthropophagus was included for some reason, and that's its own franchise.
Well, okay then. This movie, I saw it this week to prepare for this show. It was the first time I saw it since it came out. And I didn't like it when I first saw it when I was young and it came out. This training film. Because it was making fun. I felt it was making fun of the zombie lore, you know. But in retrospect, as I watched it this week, I realized this was truly a terrifying concept, you know, as far as, you know, it really is hopeless for everybody who's not a zombie in this film.
Absolutely.
So there you go. So, okay, let's get to our timeline. And I will give you time to also comment on these pictures. This is where it all starts. You need a storage. This is where our story begins. It's a warehouse for medical supplies and such. Other things get delivered there as well, as we will find out later. The next few minutes, Manager Frank is teaching the new kid, Freddie, how the supply company works. At 4 minutes and 20 seconds, we find out that Freddie's friends are going to meet him when he gets off from work. And the girl with the red hair there is Linnea Quigley, who went on to star as a scream queen in quite a few of these training films, I just want to say. And she, well, we'll talk about her character later.
Sure. Most of her characters involve being naked at some point.
Yes, we will mention that. There are no nude pictures I'm pretty sure I left all the nudity out of our timeline. But there was, like you said, there was quite a bit of it, and that probably helped her to get more roles in these films. But she did a very interesting job in this movie. Her character was probably one of the most well-defined in the picture. At 5 minutes, Freddie asks Frank what's the weirdest thing that he's ever seen at this clinical supply house. And Frank tells him that the story of Night of the Living Dead was a real story and that they've got some of the zombie corpses in the basement, packed in special containers by the U.S. Army, and they were shipped to them by accident. Okay, that makes sense. So at 8 minutes, of course, Freddie wants to see them. So Frank takes him down into the cellar and shows him. And the containers are marked property of the Army, just as expected. And there's the 1-800. If there's a zombie apocalypse in your neighborhood, don't call that number. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, that's one of the thing about this movie is, like, even the name of the place, Unita, and having the number at the bottom, you can't tell what's a joke half the time in this movie. It cracks me up.
You're wondering if they're making fun, if it's camp, or, you know, I mean, again, this is such a grim zombie movie compared to other zombie movies.
Exactly. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that the dude that wrote Alien was a part of this, because that container that zombie is in looks very much like the design of Alien.
Oh, yeah.
I doubt he had anything to do with the special effects, but it's just kind of funny that it looks so similar.
Okay, so and these containers do have corpses in them, as we see. There he is. Now this is the zombie corpse that eventually becomes what we know as, was it Tarman?
Yes, and it's probably one of the coolest zombie looks up until this point. He looks awesome every time he's on screen.
Well, there you go.
Which is better than some of the special effects in this movie.
And again, we have lots of comments here about that. Unfortunately, when Frank hits one of the containers to show how strong it is, it leaks out some green zombie gas all over the place. And it gets all over him, and the credits roll. As we watch the body in the container decompose from exposure, the gas makes its way through the ventilation system in the building, to the rest of the supply house, including a frozen room where a yellow cadaver, is stored in a bag. Of course. Now, at 12 minutes, we're at 12 minutes already, we meet the general, who is hoping to find these missing zombies, and his miserable wife, Ethel. That's her right now. And she looks like she's right out of Isle of Lucy, doesn't she?
Yes, and I love how this general, he's trying to contemplate how to solve this, and the first thing is, let me drink this scotch. That'll help solve this problem.
Of course. Nothing like a good round of scotch when you're looking for zombies and you're worried about it.
I'm pretty sure that's a general thing. Actually, why don't you have scotch? You're a general.
Yeah, I'm retired.
Oh,
I'm drinking some pink lemonade now, so, you know. I usually drink peach tea when I do this show, but drinking pink lemonade. Okay. Our showrunner is wanting us to move along now. Stop talking about our drinks. Freddy's friends show up early at 13:30 and decide to hang out in the cemetery across the street while waiting for Freddy.
Resurrection Cemetery.
Yes. That was not lost. The name on the cemetery sign is Resurrection Cemetery. And, of course, all the things that are painting on the wall there are pretty negative messages. There's no hope, that kind of thing.
No future.
And there isn't. So it's a nice place, right? Sure, why not hang out there?
Sure.
Okay, how many of you people out there think they're going to regret this mistake? I mean, really regret it. It's all about the peach tea. No, doing the lemonade today. The world is blowing up, but scotch first. Yes.
This frame of the film is one of the most annoying parts in this movie, because that blonde goes, "Oh, I just want to party." And I'm like, oh my God.
That's Freddy's girlfriend.
Yes.
Freddy's girlfriend is not that bright, as we learned through this movie.
Yes. What do they used to call it? Valley Girl. Valley Girl voice, I think they called it.
Yeah. Yeah. Her name is Tina in this movie, by the way. That's Freddy's girlfriend.
Yes.
Frank and Freddy wake up, and they don't feel so good. Duh. So Frank remedies the situation by spraying some Lysol around. Well, actually, they close up the container there before they go upstairs. And again, they look rough. And he sprays some Lysol around. And I think this slide is out of place. But they realize that dead things in the warehouse, like the split dogs, are coming to life. The split dog scene was pretty creepy.
And his immediate weapon of choice is a crutch.
Yes. He beats the hell out of that thing with a crutch.
Great.
So, and of course, there's a screaming cadaver in the meat locker. That's at 1745. Now, if you haven't recognized, there's the meat locker. If you haven't recognized the guy on the right, who's playing Frank yet, he's also the bad guy in Poltergeist. You moved the headstones, but you didn't move the bodies. Yeah, that's him on the right. He's the guy that didn't move the bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his name is Jim Karen is the actor's name. He does quite a few of these training films. Lysol should do it, Fred says.
And
some people only tune in to see Fred's comments.
Yeah, right.
He's a funny guy.
Oh, sure he is. Absolutely. You should see the text messages I get. And the guy that plays Freddy, Tom Matthews, he's one of my favorite horror guys because he's always in the ones that are funny. Like Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. He plays Tommy Jarvis. And that's one of that's like the turning point after Jason was played by a different actor and everything, and he wasn't Jason. And they made it kind of funny. It opens up with a 007 thing, and Jason throws an axe at the eye.
That's the one. That's the one where we were talking about this on, or they were talking about this on the Painting with Rory. Ron Palillo was the first victim in that movie, right?
Ron Palillo, yeah. Welcome back, Cotter. He got thrown.
Welcome back, Cotter gets his heart plunged right through his body. Jason puts his hand right through him and pulls his heart out of his back. Then
he gets put in Jason's casket.
Yeah. So yeah, they turned Jason into kind of a Frankenstein, and that's when Kane Hodder started playing Jason. He played him in quite a few films. He's played him more than anybody else, I think.
He played him. He played him for the first time in Jason Takes Manhattan, and he played him right up until.
No. This one was before. He started playing him in Jason Lives, the one just before that. Right?
No, that was actually you can tell because it's actually a shorter guy in that movie. He only played him for that one. It wasn't Jason Takes Manhattan. It was the seventh one with the psychic, where he's in the river, where they call it Jason versus Carrie, and he played him right up until the Freddy versus Jason movie. And the guy that was the diner cook in Jason Takes Manhattan went on to play Jason.
Wow.
That's random trivia.
Well, there you go. The Muppets did not do well in that film. I don't know which film he's talking about, but
neither do I. But people come for the comments.
Facebook user says, which was the one where Jason punches the dude's head off?
That was Jason Takes Manhattan. And the guy that plays Freddy's friend in this movie, he was in the fifth one, A New Beginning. And that dude, he has the perm in this movie. And he died in that movie because he was taking a dump in an outhouse, and Jason shook it and made him go into it.
Aha!
But that brings us back to this film.
Yeah, it's a surprise how many of these actors end up in Jason movies for some reason.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Obviously, the same agent or something does these casting for these training films. We haven't done a Jason film yet. We should do that. We should do the one with Rob Palillo. That's the return of Jason. That's Jason Lives. We should do that one.
That's a fantastic movie because it's kind of like this movie where it doesn't have an ambient soundtrack. This movie is full of a great soundtrack, and so is Jason.
That was one of the things that sold this movie to teenagers was the soundtrack with like Butthole Surfers and all kinds of like punk groups and stuff doing songs for the film's soundtrack.
The Cramps were on there. The Damned was on there.
Yeah.
And it also is one of the first movies where the theme song is the title of the movie. It's like, okay, I need to write a theme song real quick, and I'm out of ideas. What are we calling this thing?
Well, I got to be honest, though. You know, as a person who really likes soundtrack or theme songs and soundtrack music for these training films, I thought the zombie theme from this was actually a pretty good one. The composer did a good job with the soundtrack on this, as well as having, people singing "Surfing Dead" and stuff like that, which was again attracted younger people and to make this film as successful and famous as it was.
In addition to the popular music, it also had a score kind of like the one that George Romero did for the original Night of the Living Dead, or even John Carpenter with Halloween and The Thing. It wasn't about popular music; it was about creating an ambiance to the scene.
Well, people who know Night of the Living Dead know that music is public domain now, and we use the theme song, the end song from that movie where they're throwing our hero on the fire as our theme song for the end of our show, our outro. So because it's in public domain, unlike our intro theme, which now is not in. Which now is okay.
Your new intro theme is also awesome. I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
We're still waiting for Tom Cheshire to come up with a really hip, cool theme song for the show. But until he does that, this will hold us until then.
Yeah, all this intro needs is...
I just hired a couple of singers and whistlers. Maybe I'll get you to redo the theme song. Get you to do outro song. Okay, so in the meat locker, she's goading us on. We're digressing. She's goading us on to get back to the
super digressing.
Get back to the timeline. By the way, we hope Major Hazzard's voice gets better.
Yes.
We're sorry that Major Hazzard couldn't be here. She's got a terrible case of laryngitis, and but she's still running the show. So there you go. A salute to you and your voice. Hope it gets better soon. All right, where was I? Okay. He decides to call the boss. There we go. He decides to call the boss. That's Frank's big idea here. They decide not to call the police. They decide not to call the army. They might get in trouble, and people might think they're stupid. Yeah. So he calls his boss, played by Clu Gallagher. Now at 41, I'm sorry. At 21, I guess, 45, this girl's name is Trash. That's Linnea Quigley again. And this is just before she takes off all of her clothes. Sorry, guys. Yep. She spends a good portion of this film, and she has a magnificent body, by the way. Really very toned, very nice body. So anyway, she spends most of this movie in the nude. And she is a scream queen. She's invited to a lot of conventions. She's a scream queen, and evidently she's a fan favorite.
She still does it. Goes to conventions and stuff. Don't tell Fred about the nudity though. These comments are going to get out of hand.
Okay, so Bird shows up, and they let loose the cadaver and put a pick through his head, and they cut off his head. Because he's still not dying. You know, in Night of the Living Dead, if you destroy the brain, again, you kill the zombie. So, okay, so we can shoot him in the head, we can do it. But in this movie, they put a pick through this guy's head and he's still moving. So there's like no way to kill these things, you know, short of burning them up. And when you burn them up, guess what? Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
That frame,
so unlike
that frame right there,
it's a lot more difficult to kill the zombies in this training film.
Yeah. That frame right there too is exactly what I was talking about great special effects and terrible special effects, because this body looks so fake.
Now
the body.
No. Well, the actor that plays the yellow zombie, do you think he's proud to, you know, say, I'm the naked yellow zombie in that movie when he goes to conventions and stuff? Yeah, that's me. I'm showing my butt.
I imagine,
and my gut.
I imagine he's sitting at the table and he's doing autographs and he's like, man, I should have done some sit-ups before I was in this movie.
Yeah, look at those man boobs, huh?
Now this needs to be censored.
Well, Quigley, again, I said I was going to tone down the nudity in this show, and then we show that. Sorry. People are going to have the wrong idea about General Howitzer. Hey, Julio. There's Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Okay. So Bert decides to go to Ernie. Bert and Ernie. I get it.
I picked up that as well.
Who runs the mortuary across the street. How convenient. There's a cemetery across the street. There's a mortuary next to them. Anyway, he's gonna have Ernie solve his problem by cremating this body that has come to life. Okay. You know, they haven't even talked about, you know, the fact that these guys have sucked in this green gas and they're looking like hell already. But yeah, we got to get this yellow body that we've chopped up into pieces. We got to burn it up. So anyway, they show Ernie the remaining, the reanimated arm of the yellow guy, and it tries to grab it. So he's convinced. He agrees to cremate all the zombie stuff, the half dogs and all that stuff. Okay, so the problem is, in this next slide, that the smoke goes up the chimney and into the clouds. The smoke from this cremation, there it is. Looks like he's vaping. That's zombie vape. The clouds begin to rain on the cemetery. Now the kids, they go back to the car and put the top up, right? Because it's raining now, and it's raining hard, and it's acid rain. They can feel it burning their skin. I would guess that chances are, if this movie had gone further, they all would have probably turned into zombies if they hadn't been eaten.
Well, that's one thing they didn't talk about too much. When he burns the body and all of that smoke comes out of the chimney, they don't really say anything about it. Like, that they breathed in the stuff from the container, but they don't really say anything like, oh yeah, this smoke that came out is definitely going to infect people. They don't really address it. So I always kind of wondered about that.
Right. So, and again, that's my feeling, is that if given time, they would have gotten sick just like Freddie and Frank, and they would have probably turned into zombies too. That's my guess, because they make several comments that the rain is burning them, that it's like acid rain, that they can feel it on their skin.
So it's almost like that smoke from the chimney got absorbed into a cloud or something, and that's what's raining down on them.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
So after the burn, we find out that Frank and Freddie are real sick from the zombie gas. So more trouble, right? So meanwhile, 4430, Freddie's girlfriend, Tina, is looking for him in the warehouse, and she runs into the original zombie, Tarman. Now, I always thought that this guy had fangs, and I was like, why does this one have fangs? But that's actually like a reflection of rain or water coming off of his face.
Yeah.
In this picture.
They really make him look super slimy, and that's why it's such a good effect compared to that yellow body.
This movie got canceled at the 39-minute mark. This is rare footage. Okay.
I have no clue.
Anyway, that's Tarman.
Yes.
And they got a really thin actor to play him, which was really fun. And again, his movements are very interesting. How he portrays this zombie, and yeah. So there he is. He's chasing after Tina. He's a looker. That's what I'm trying to say. At least he's not naked like the yellow guy.
He looks like Sid Haig.
He does, actually. He does. But Sid Haig is a big guy. He's stocky.
No, yeah, but his face.
Yeah, but if you look on IMDb for this guy, I can't remember his name offhand, but yeah, he looks very thin and gaunt, but yeah, he does have kind of a Sid Haig look about him. And Sid Haig does a lot of these training films. The funniest Sid Haig performance, though, ever is in Diamonds Are Forever. He plays one of the goons, one of the thugs that takes Sean Connery from the airport to the mortuary.
Yeah.
And he says, "I got a brother." It's a great line. And Connery says, "Small world."
He was in he actually played the coroner in the remake of Night of the Living Dead. And when Barbara goes in there, he's like, "We're closed for business," and he's holding this shovel where he's just digging these holes. But he never he said he was afraid of fire, so he never cremated any of these zombies. So his place was just full of all these zombies.
Mm. And of course, got the little hat on. He's Captain Howdy.
Yes.
Okay, so the other guys, the gang, show up to help Tina, and that's another thing, is these zombies they have I mean, their thought process is still there. I mean, He goes and he gets a winch to open up like a locker that she's in. I mean, he knows what he's doing. And we'll show more of that later on in the film. These zombies move fast and they can think, which is something that, you don't really have in the Night of the Living Dead pictures. They kind of lumber slowly. There's just a lot of them, which again is a problem in this film too, but they move faster. So again, it makes it just seem really hopeless. As this movie progresses, it gets more and more hopeless. Anyway, the gang shows up. Spooky Suicide gets his brains eaten by Tarman. You snooze, you lose, especially with zombies. So he's the first victim that they all see. 57 minutes. They send an ambulance to help Frank and Freddie. Freddie's tongue is orange, which is not a good sign. They have no blood pressure or pulse, which is also not a good sign. Let's go back to that slide production. We can see some of these pictures of the ambulance. I think we left on the ambulance.
I believe.
There they are, checking them out.
I believe Alan Troutman played Tarman.
You're right. It is Troutman. Not what your mother said. That's not what your mother said, Troback. I get it, brother.
I got it, brother.
Again, I am seeing. I have to. I have to squint my eyes to see the comments, but I can see them.
Me too.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I have to squint to see them too. I don't have my old man specs.
And I have old man eyes, so there it is. Julie is not enjoying this pick of a movie that we've chosen for our training film. So anyway, yeah, they're checking them over, and it's just not looking good. So the kids decide, because it's raining, to go back to the cemetery. Oh, good move. You see a zombie bite off on top of your friend's head. Hey, let's go back to the mausoleum.
You know where we should go.
That's it. So you roll your dice, you take your chances. They're in the worst possible place now. Soon, trash gets done in because the zombies start rising and they surround. I mean, here we go. It's time to party. That was another thing I didn't like about this film was they reused this whole sequence where the zombies are coming up out of the ground and that particular skeleton coming up out of the ground at the end of the movie. They just reused it. It's like, come on, at least change out the skeleton and make it something else. Come on.
It's kind of like the yellow body. It almost seems like at one point they had all this money to do the effects, and then they were like, okay, dude, we ran out of money. Let's reuse this scene. The yellow guy is going to look like claymation.
What are you going to do?
But we don't have a budget.
Yeah, you have to take into consideration when they're making these training films that, the budgets they're given sometimes aren't what, it's needed to do this, to do it properly. But they did have Clue Gallagher, so they had that. So, and it was revolutionary enough to start a whole new trend in zombie films. So soon trash gets done, as I said earlier, and she has actually dreamed about this. She mentions this earlier on that she dreamed about dying by being clawed at by a bunch of old men. 3 of our kids go to the mortuary and explain to Ernie that there are hungry dead people outside. The paramedics come and they meet the living dead. Chuck and Casey are in the supply house. They decide to call the police. They make it into the supply house. 54 minutes, Tina finds Freddy. What did they do to you? She keeps saying. Indeed, Tina. Indeed. It's all Frank's fault. Frank is a knucklehead. All of this started because Frank's an idiot.
I'm going to show you how tough this glass is.
Don't bang your head. 55 minutes. Ernie goes outside and meets his first Walking Dead out by the ambulance. Well, sort of. He's a fast little bugger too. Yeah, I think they actually hired like an amputee who knew how to walk on his stumps.
Huh.
56:30. The gang realizes that the situation is getting out of control. No kidding. 57:40. A zombie tells dispatch to send more paramedics. Yeah, Living Dead seem to think fairly clearly, if you ask me. They move too quickly too. At 1 hour, they watch as another ambulance arrives and the zombies chow down. There's the other ambulance. 101:45, the horde attack the back door, and while trying to defend it, Scuzz gets his cranium attacked. Now, you got to admit, it's pretty messy, too. Next slide. Yeah, look at all the blood around there. That's from squirting from the top of his head. 103:10. Ernie wants to examine the half-zombie bitch who killed Scuzz. She tells them everything they want to know. Evidently, it's painful to be living dead. Who knew? Eating brains makes the pain go away, she says.
Yeah. That's a weird thing because you mainly hear, when you talk about zombies that talk, you mainly hear about Bub from Dawn of the Dead. But I think she talks way more in this one scene than Bub does in the entire movie.
Well, again, Bub is like, but can you really call that talking?
But he knew how to shave.
These guys are saying, hey, send more paramedics.
Yeah.
Ooh, the brains. We need the brains. Yeah, they talk. They walk, they talk. They make julienne fries. She looks better, though, doesn't she? She's had some brains. She looks good.
Not bad. It looks like my prom date.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know anymore. So it's time to secure Frank and Freddy because any zombie-like symptoms, you got to lock them up. So it's time they take them to another room. They take them to the chapel and they lock them up. 108, the police show up. I'm surprised that paramedic still has brain oozing out of his, and I was going to put a shot of that up here, and then I decided against it. But there's actually, when the police turns around and he sees the paramedic's head, there's brain oozing out of his head at that exact moment. It waited for the cop to show up before it oozed out. And again, logic would tell you that all of these zombies would have cleaned out that skull completely. They wouldn't have left brains go to waste like that.
Oh, eating brains makes you feel good. So let me leave leftovers. The next guy might want some.
Again, if it makes you feel better and there's hundreds of zombies roaming around, you would think that they would find that guy's skull and go, "Oh, somebody left some brains." But no. There was brains left to ooze out when the police arrived.
Okay. Didn't even get a doggy bag.
There you go. So at 109:15, we get the second zombie saying, "Send more cops." And here's the surprise. He's wearing a Confederate soldier's uniform. Okay. But he looks pretty good for a corpse that's been around for 100 years. Things that make you go home. I mean, that looks like a corpse that's been in the ground for like a year, right? Not 100 years. He would have been like a skeleton, right? But a skeleton. Well, I don't know. It probably would have been funny if a skeleton would grab the mic and in his bony hand and say, "Send more cops."
Especially if he was from the Confederate War. Then it's like, okay, how does this guy know how to use a microphone?
Which I forgot to mention. This is Louisville, Kentucky. That was one of the things that was interesting about this zombie film too, was the choice of locale. The General is in San Diego, but this actual warehouse and where the zombie thing happens is Louisville, Kentucky. So that was an interesting choice. More realistic.
I imagine this is probably the most southern zombie movie next to Curse of the Cannibal Confederates.
Well, and that's it. Is most of the characters in this film don't speak with a southern accent.
No, not at all.
Now, I've played in Louisville. I've done shows in Louisville. The General has been to Louisville. A lot of the people there speak with southern accents. Very southern accents.
I've been escorted out of Louisville.
Well, there you go. So you should know. Freddy at 110 finally attacks Tina, wanting her brains. Sorry, Tina, bad call. She decided to stay with him in the chapel. She didn't want to leave him. Well, bad move. But she gets away thanks to Bert and Ernie. But they throw acid in Freddy's face. So he is all messed up now. Up, go back. Freddy's face. Yeah, he's all messed up now. So Bert and Spider fight through the zombie hordes, and they get the police car because the car's still running. But there's zombies all over the place. So they end up back in the warehouse. At 1:16:20, Ernie and Tina hide in the attic from Freddy. Because there's Freddy.
Yes.
He's a mess. Frank decides, since he's the reason for all of this, and he knows he's turning into a zombie, he's going to cremate himself. And he does. He cremates himself. He jumps in there with the fire on, closes the door, and we hear his shrieks as more smoke goes up. And again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's just kind of strange. He makes this sacrifice to kill himself and everything as if it's going to help the situation, only to have his ashes go up into the air more.
Again, I think it's more selfish than that. I think he's just feeling guilty.
Oh, yes, that could be the case. Even
because he knows he was the one that messed up.
And it's weird because when Freddy goes after Tina, he says something along the lines of, "I finally know now why this is happening." And it's like, okay, he turned at this point. Now he's a zombie.
Right.
But Frank never turns, though. It's just like, it doesn't seem like it anyway.
I don't think he gave it enough time.
Yeah.
I think he was about to turn and he knew it, and that's why he did what he did.
Yeah, and
he felt guilty and he didn't want to be going after everybody trying to eat their brains.
It's kind of strange because they both got infected at the same time.
Right.
Too. So
Frank is a bigger body, though.
That is true.
So it might have taken maybe another hour for him.
Tom Matthews.
We don't know.
Tom Matthews is younger too, so maybe
for the sake of the script. Hey, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to cremate myself because that's cool in this movie.
And that's always the go-to. If the plot demands it, if the plot demands it, it makes sense.
That's the way it is with these training films sometimes. Yeah, it's just pandemonium now. He cremates himself. More police arrive, and can you say, brain buffet? Because they are just, hordes of zombies just pop out. Bert decides to knock Tarman's block off, which he does. And see, you can actually see how he's moving there just from this still shot. How he's moving as a zombie. He's got some really interesting zombie movements. And I didn't realize it until just now, but there's a lot of tar on the inside of that door and that wall, though.
I guess that's where the name comes from.
There you go.
The look of him, actually, there's only one movie that really had zombies that look like that, and it's another Italian one from 1975 called Nightmare City.
Okay.
And this movie reminds me a lot of Nightmare City. Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's public domain.
Training film. So the police can't help. That's pretty obvious, especially in this next shot. They just don't know what's going on. What the hell? At 1:23, they finally call the 800 number on the side of the canisters, and they get a hold of the general and Ethel. Ethel's there too.
Yes.
So get a hold of him, and he works up the plan number to deal with this particular situation after he's talked to Klugeler. And he nukes the area there in Louisville. And happy ending, right?
Usually.
So everybody we've been rooting for was nuked in like an 8-block radius there. They have like a special tactical nuke that will just nuke that area. But the smoke goes up, the rain comes down.
I didn't even think about that this is a specifically targeted nuclear strike.
Yes. They didn't blow up all of Louisville. they only blew up that 8-block or 10-block radius. They were able to do it.
There was Fat Man, Little Boy, but for the 8-block radius, they made Baby Boomer.
There you go. I like it. I was going to say the Louisville Slugger, but I like Baby Boomer.
Oh, that's good too.
But there you go. So again, this movie spawned sequels. I know of 3 for a fact, but there might be a 4 or 5. You know, usually when that happens, as with the Police Academy training films, there's a less budget as each movie goes along. Less budget to make more and more money. People people in Hollywood are greedy. So
I think it happens even with the best. We had the word earlier. Franchises out there.
Franchise.
Yeah. I mean,
would you like franchise with that? I'm sorry. That's a Brian Regan line.
Sounds like a sauce that you dip your French fries in. Can I get more franchise over here? But
I want to dip my brains in some franchise.
Waiter. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser. The further along you get, the less the budget is, the less the original people that were involved are involved. And then usually they're making sequels purely for keeping the rights to that movie. Because if you sleep on a franchise for a certain amount of time, somebody can be like, oh, hey, I want to make a Hellraiser movie.
That's how the first Roger Corman version of the Fantastic Four was made.
My God!
and it never made a theatrical release, but a copy was leaked, and now it's every convention you can find it. It's the 1994, the very first Fantastic Four film, and the budget was so low, so the effects were so low. But it's a fun movie to watch.
I personally like it better than the ones that they made in the past 10 or 20 years. The costume that they had for the Thing in that movie is really cool. It looks a lot cooler than a whole bunch of computer graphics.
I like the Thing in that movie. I thought it was better, like you say, than the peanut butter thing that they with Michael Chiklis.
Yes, but like many Corman films, the acting is so hokey.
Well, yeah, it's a comic book brought to life, you know. Yes. And again, it's done kind of like Batman 1966. There's a little tongue-in-cheek, little, you know, campiness to it that you gotta like. And still to this day, it's Robert Culp's son. I can't remember his first name. I think it's Alan Culp. But he is the best Doctor Doom. He's the definitive Doctor Doom for me.
Yes.
He sounds and overacts and looks, seems like what Doctor Doom would be like to me.
They at the same time period, Golan Globus, I think, made a Captain America movie. And they had Red Skull in it, and the makeup was great.
Yes.
And some of those movies, you can watch them and be like, hey, that's what a comic book's like. But then you see the ones that they make now, and it's like, okay, this is just edgy for the sake of edginess.
Yeah, that's a real obscure one. That's the Matt Salinger version of Captain America. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good
Before
one.
that, we had Reb Brown with his motorcycle helmet on. From the TV version of Captain America.
You guys got some paint? Because I got a cheap idea for a costume right now.
All right, so back to zombies.
Yes.
Again, we digress when we get together.
Oh, of course.
We go off on tangents, you know, that have nothing to do with zombies and what we're supposed to be talking about. So, in your opinion, I'm just asking you as an expert, what is the best zombie movie as far as, okay, this is how it really be, you know, and this is what everybody would really be up against, and this is how the zombies would really be.
I think, well, it really depends. There's a lot of different genres as far as zombie films. I think as far as comedy goes, I think something like Shaun of the Dead is not only funny, but it's also pretty realistic because they're basically bumbling through this, and sometimes things go okay. But there's also bleak parts, just like many zombie movies.
Yeah, we're actually going to have to do Shaun of the Dead on here, and definitely have you back for that one.
Oh yeah,
that's a great one. You don't want to give away too much, but yes, that's definitely one that we would have fun with on this show. There's no doubt about that. Next week, by the way, we're going to go back to Toho.
There's one also called Nudist Colony of the Dead, and this one is.
You were telling me about that one. It's a musical.
Yes, it is.
But that's very hard for our the people that watch the show to find, for our viewers to find. It's very hard to find.
I had to get this on a double feature.
You sent me one of the songs from that movie, and I could not finish watching it. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Sorry.
That was one of the
I got
better
about
parts.
A minute.
No, it's real hokey. But I think Return of the Living Dead is one of the better zombie movies of all time. I mean, it has a great energy to it, but it's also bleak. Dawn of the Dead is great. I think you can play around with the genre so much that it would be really hard to pick like a definitive one.
See, the problem that I have with this film, with the Return of the Living Dead thing, is there's several problems. One, the zombies target brains, which I'm sorry, if it was a zombie, when I see zombie movies, they're cannibals. They want to eat you, all parts of you. Yeah. And again, if you eat the brains out of the zombie, how's the other zombies gonna, function without brains? That's the other problem. If you kill the zombie's brain, you kill the zombie. We all know that. So they blow that theory out of the water, which makes it very bleak. And again,
that makes a lot of sense, because if they're eating brains, how in the hell are we getting more zombies?
That's what I'm saying. So
wow.
that's a plot hole. That's a definite plot hole.
That's a plot
also, I got a problem with the zombies being, that they have thought process, that they can talk and they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're saying. I think the George Romero films tackle that issue better. Yeah, their brain is going to be mush at this point. So they're just going to be moving off of instinct. And again, they're just going to be going after food. And again, that they wouldn't necessarily be running the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, with the Romero films, even with Freddy in parts of these movies, or this movie, because they don't have a lot of brain function, it creates a sympathetic character, sort of. So like when you see that first zombie in Night of the Living Dead, it's like, okay, well, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's gonna get killed for this.
I'll be honest with you. The scariest training film about zombies for me was the remake of Dawn of the Dead. That's the one with the first zombie is a little girl from next door. Creepy stuff going on in that movie.
With Ving Rhames, right?
I can't remember. I haven't seen it since I saw this movie. It was like in the 80s when I saw it, I think. Or
yeah.
So in any case, again, the remake of Night of the Living Dead was pretty faithful to the original, but the remake of Dawn of the Dead was very different. And the biggest difference was, yes, newly made zombies were fast. They were fast. They didn't sit around and have a conversation with you. I'm going to eat your brains now.
Yeah,
and again, they were just cannibals.
I'm running and I'm getting you. In the
that
remake,
makes more sense. If you were somebody who was just bitten by a zombie and you just became a zombie, yeah, you might be able to move a little faster than some of those, those guys.
in the remake of Dawn of the Dead, they actually had a character that was named something like Bub, and what they did was they made him a vegetarian.
We talked about this the last time. Why aren't there vegetarian zombies?
There was one, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's not attacking anybody because he was a vegetarian before he was a zombie." I'm like, "Really? Did you get baked before you wrote this script?"
Yeah. Somebody just pointed out that there are zombies like 28 Days Later, Resident Evil, that move faster because that's a different kind of zombie, or they were made a different kind of way, I guess I should say. They're still zombies. And another good example of that is WWZ, right, with Brad Pitt, Pretty Boy.
Yes.
That was kind of like a rabies kind of thing. They changed them in like 12 seconds, I think it was, and they moved like animals. They were very fast. They moved like animals. Yeah. So another weird zombie movie going forward.
That reminds me of a movie about zombie beavers called Zombievers.
You know, I think I've seen that one on the shelf at Blockbuster. Back when Blockbuster was still open.
I would not recommend.
Well, there's one about was it Black Sheep? Was the zombie sheep?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
I think it was called Black Sheep.
Yeah, I think so.
Not the Chris Farley film.
We'll do that one on here. Sounds like a spoof.
The
Sounds
Chris
like we might have fun with.
The Chris Farley Black Sheep is far more scary.
Oh my God!
Holy!
You know the one that he's got his coat caught in the plane door and they take off with him?
Yeah, and he's running for office or something.
Your thought process is truly amazing. We went from zombies to Chris Farley flying away on a plane in a movie. On the outside of a plane.
I would have paid to see Chris Farley as a zombie. I'm just saying, that would have been awesome.
That would have been an awesome movie, I think. Big zombie. Have to eat a lot of brains. All right. Well, again, I was about to announce what we were doing next week on the show. We're going back to Toho with a Russ Tamblyn classic, War of the Gargantuas. It's time, folks. It's time. This is considered by most kaiju fans as probably one of the best non-Godzilla movies in the Toho canon. And I have to agree. And despite the fact that it's got Russ Tamblyn in it, who's obviously, he doesn't want to be there. He just flat out is just taking the money. He's doing what he's asked to, just minimally, to get through the picture. And he just is not happy to be there. I mean, he might be happy to be in Japan, but not happy to be doing this movie. So this training film.
I love performances like that where it's like, you can tell after they said cut, he was sending some grip to get him a drink.
When Nick Adams did a movie in Japan, man, he put his whole body and soul into it. You dirty rotten rats! But
what was this?
He's not doing any dance numbers in this movie. That's what I'm saying.
What was the zombie movie where zombies fall in love? I'm not sure.
I've never heard of that. Somebody find us a title real quick because we're about to stop the show. I've been watching the first Night of the Living Dead, especially Halloween night when I was little. Oh, Julie. But that's black and white, though.
Yes.
Poltergeist, yeah. Thank you all. Thank you for coming and watching. And we're about to wrap up shop here, but I want to thank Julio one more time. Oh, he's got something. He's got something.
My search history is dreadful, but the movie where the zombies fall in love is called Warm Bodies, and I think I just got put on an FBI list.
Warm Bodies, folks. Look it up.
Warm Bodies.
We're definitely going to look it up. Thank you all for coming in. I'm going to give one more salute to Julio, our zombie expert.
Thank you for having me.
When we do Shaun of the Dead, we'll have you come back with us again because
awesome.
the audience loves you. They think you're great. You've got so many great zombie facts for us. So thank you all again. Have a great evening. And for those of you watching on replay on YouTube, just have a great week. This is General Hazzard saying, keep an eye out for those big monsters and those zombies.